Why can't I say this the right way? Why can't I get this right? Greetings. This is Escape from Trucking, and today I want to talk about the current trucking recession and why so many people in the trucking industry are suffering because of it, and in particular, why this particular trucking recession has lasted so long. Um, as you might know, the trucking industry is economically sensitive. It tends to go into a recession very easily. But on the flip side, recessions in the trucking industry tend to be pretty short. They only last 10 to 12 months. This one, on the other hand, as of the closing months of 2024, this one's been going on since offhand, early 2022. So maybe like mid 2022. It's been going on for over 2 years now, and you might be wondering what the heck is really going on in this industry and why. What is making this recession last so freaking long? Because it's caused a lot of truckers, particularly owner operators, lease operators, to really have to suffer a lot. And so I'd like to talk about that in this video. A little bit about me. I've been trucking since 2018, and many years ago I was in university. I actually have a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in economics. And one of the courses I took in my last year in university was about the boom and bust cycle in capitalism. And one of the books that we had to read was Manias, Panics, and Crashes by Charles Kindleberger. And it really influenced the way I thought about the economy. And in the sense that oftentimes in a capitalist system, there's a very distinct boom and bust cycle that's perpetuated by three stages: a mania, a panic, and then an ensuing crash. Not to get too nerdy on you here, but I'm seeing that happen. I believe that's happening in the trucking industry. And the book itself, if you want to read it, went over many numerous manias, panics, and crashes that have happened over the history of capitalism, starting with the Dutch tulip craze, if you're at all familiar with that. But not going to talk about that in this video. I just want to keep it to trucking if I can. I believe that the Kindleberger's theory about manias, panics, and crashes give a lot of insight as to why the recession in the trucking industry is lasting so gosh darn long. And so I'd like to talk about that. In order to understand the genesis of this trucking recession and why it's so special, we have to go back to when COVID was ending. When COVID ended. If you remember back then, the rates per mile skyrocketed, particularly on the spot market. I've never been an owner operator or a lease operator, so I've never been at the mercy of this. But my understanding was we were seeing rates per mile, cents per mile in the spot market go like $3. Like the mid threes, I think. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very high, and with spot rates there, it's very, very profitable to run your own truck, and that's what a lot of people decided they wanted to do. Of course, everyone and their cousin, starting in late 2020, early 2021, everyone and their cousin wanted to get a CDL. Everyone and their cousin wanted to break into the trucking industry. And because the barriers to entry in trucking industry are still pretty low, a lot of people did. And that led to an explosion of new CDLs, an explosion of new authorities, and more problematic, it caused a run on existing trucks. It caused a mania it caused a scramble to get a hold of every single truck anyone could possibly ever get their hands on ever. A little story about me, a little anecdote about me. I was actually working at Schneider at the time, and even Schneider was having trouble getting a hold of trucks. Uh, I had a co-driver. I did team driving for the longest time, and I lost a co-driver to this mania. A co-driver I was with him for exactly 2 weeks until he got it in his very entrepreneurial pie in the sky mind that, hey, I could actually do this myself. And so he got with his trainer, of all people. He got with his trainer, who he knew for a month, and the two of them got together and opened their own authority and got 3 trucks, and they paid through their nose to get it, from what he was telling me. That to me, just anecdotally, that to me, when I saw that, that was a sign to me that the top was in. It was very akin to, I'm not, if you know your Wall Street history, akin to, I think it was I think it was Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie said, I knew when the top in the stock market was in, when my shoe shiner was giving me stock advice. Right? That was what it felt like when I was listening to Juan tell me about how he was going to buy 3 trucks with his trainer and start their own authority. It was really crazy, and I shudder to think of where he is right now. Anyway, what was I talking about? These in the craze to get a hold of the scramble for trucks caused, as you might guess, it caused inflated purchase prices for these trucks. And these inflated purchases, more importantly, were fueled by low interest rates, which thereby gave these new truckers a relatively low truck note to pay vis-a-vis the overinflated price that these folks in the late 2020 all through 2021 paid for their trucks. They paid a lot of money for these trucks. Maybe you did too. I don't know. I was a company driver the whole time. That was a mania. Now, let me get a drink of water here. What followed, if you're familiar, was I'll call it panic. It caused overcapacity. The economy was hot for a while. People were consuming goods for a while, but once they got done with that and the economy truly opened up, what happened was people kind of switched from, if you remember, this is 2022, people switched from consuming goods to consuming services. And all of a sudden we had a big overcapacity in the trucking market. We had too many trucks and we had not enough freight. And when that happens, guess what happens to the market rates, the spot market rates? The rates started going down, and the spot market rate, of course, led on the way down. And that made it all of a sudden very difficult for these truckers who had bought these trucks at inflated, super high prices. They're stuck with a payment, and now they're making less and less and less money month in, month out. The rates keep dropping and dropping and dropping, and it's making people nervous. That process probably started in probably at least the second quarter of 2022, third quarter of 2022, just going off my own memory. So you might be asking, well, gee, a lot of those truckers, now we have gotten authorities, some trucks have been coming off, but not nearly enough. A lot of you will notice that a lot of these truckers, a lot of this new capacity is still online. A lot of these truckers don't want to leave. I've heard one of the truckers I watched, This Guy Trucks, that's his name. he posited that there are too many idiots on the road, and that's driving the keeping the rates down so nobody can make any money. And that might be true, but a lot of people are wondering, well, when is this going to end? When is this overcapacity finally going to go away? It's like it's never going to end. And I've heard a lot of truckers say, we're never going to make money like we did in the good old days. We're never going to make money. Not even like 2021. Let's forget about 2021. A lot of drivers are saying, well, it's never going to be like it was. We're always just going to be scraping by from now on. And I can understand that despair. This freight recession has lasted an awfully long time. I think that I believe that the trucking recession is really going to start to end. It's going to last until probably the second half of 2025. Maybe by the second half of 2025, we're going to see a crash in capacity. We're going to see a dramatic reduction in the number of trucks that are out there competing for the fixed number of loads. To understand why this is going to happen, I just ask you to do a thought exercise here with me. How long, when a carrier buys a truck, let's assume it's brand new, how long do these trucks typically last out here doing interstate freight? Usually, I mean, I know they can last these diesel engines can last 3/4 of a million miles, maybe. But really, typically, once these trucks start hitting 400,000, certainly 500,000 miles, the carriers start disposing of them, right? They start coming off the interstate market, and maybe they'll do some local stuff. But the bottom line is, usually about that 500,000-mile mark, okay? Now, we saw the big explosion in capacity in 2020 and 2021. Let's assume that on average these trucks accrue 100,000 miles a year. So let's pick a date. It's November now. So November 2021. So we got November 2022, that's 100,000. 2023 is 200,000. 2024. That truck that let's say Juan, the guy I knew, he bought in November 2021. Let's say he got it brand new. It now has 100,000, 200,000. Right now, as of November 2024, it's got 300,000 miles on it. He's struggling. The average trucker who bought then is struggling. Maybe they're barely breaking even. They're barely holding on. And now they've got a truck with 300,000 miles. How much longer, reasonably speaking, will they be able to hold on to that truck? Probably give it one more year. We'll give it one more year. So then, by the time, the point I'm trying to make is, by the time November 2025 rolls around, this guy that bought the truck in November 2021, he's really going to need a new truck. He's going to need to replace that truck that he bought. And here's where the important fact kicks in here. What's different between now and November 2021? Well, the prices of trucks have come down, that's true. But to our guy that bought in November 21, that's irrelevant because he's not making no money and he doesn't have no money to spare. So he's going to have to borrow. If he does want to replace that truck and stay in the trucking business, he's going to have to borrow to get his next truck. Now, there's the difference right there, and there's the kicker. Interest rates. They're way higher than they are now. I don't know where they are because I don't borrow. I'm not a lease operator. I'm not an owner operator, so I don't know exactly where interest rates are. But I know for a fact that they're much higher now than they are back then. Okay, they're much higher now, and I think the lending standards of these banks that are lending, that are financing these transactions, I think they're a lot tighter. So now our guy's got a truck that's starting to break down. He needs to replace it, and the interest rates are way higher. In other words, he's going to have a very difficult time replacing that truck that he's just about lost. That's just about finished the cycle of its life. At the same time, while spot rates have improved somewhat, they're still bouncing along a bottom. And contract rates overall, not just spot rates, they're just bouncing along a bottom. We're not really getting much relief on the rate, but interest rates are much higher, and it's going to be much harder for him to replace that truck. In other words, he will have no other choice but to leave the trucking industry. This guy that we're talking, this theoretical person that we're following, he'll have no choice but to leave. And it's my belief that there are hundreds of thousands, if not upwards of 1 million truckers in exactly that situation right now. They're just holding on by the skin of their teeth. But when it comes time to replace that asset that they have that is aging and depreciating every day, they're not going to be able to do that, and that is when the capacity will finally start leaving the market. So, when that happens, when that capacity leaves, I'd say 6 months after that, you're going to really start to see some relief in the spot market. You're going to really start to see some relief in rates overall, and the market's going to return back to normal. It's going to start returning back. It's going to repair itself. And as is so often the case in capitalism, the carriers that were prepared, the carriers that had clean balance sheets and for exactly opportunities like this, they're going to be the ones that benefit the most, because when all these broke truckers have no choice but to finally turn in the keys, there's going to be a lot of trucks available for not too much money. And there's going to be a lot fewer truckers on the road. I think even the price of new trucks will come down. And the players that were prepared, did have plenty of reserves on the side, and did play it conservatively, will be the ones that benefit the most when that cycle comes around, when that cycle renews itself again. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you have anything to add? Any ways in which you disagree? Please leave it in the comments, and we'll talk about it. But from my perch, that's where we're at. Second half of 2025, I really predict we're going to see a crash in capacity, and by this time next year, I think the market will have healed itself, and I think we will see rates quite a bit higher than where they are right now. Anyway, thanks for watching.